19 people shot over the weekend as gun violence continues to escalate. And President Joe Biden got an earful from a group of community leaders who were invited to the White House to discuss what can be done to address this issue.
One thing I'm clear about, the prerequisite to prosperity is public safety and justice. And if we don't have them both together, it doesn't matter how many police officers you put on the streets. We can't continue to respond to symptoms. It's time to respond to the underlying causes of violence in our city.
We have to find balance. We can't continue to arrest crime away. We need to get guns off the street, hold people accountable, and ensure that our communities get the kind of protection that they need. Right now, Black and brown communities are being terrorized from gun violence.
Some really strong words there. And just last week, Governor Cuomo declared a state of emergency due to the rise in gun violence. So this morning, we are talking to one of the people on the front lines of this fight to keep our streets safe, that being Erica Ford. She is the founder and CEO of Life Camp. So good morning, Erica. Thanks so much for joining us.
Good morning. Thanks for raising the issue.
Absolutely. You know, the rise in gun violence has gotten the attention of the White House, as you saw. President Biden says more cops is the answer. Do you agree with him?
I think that President Biden clearly doesn't want just cops, as he is looking to invest $5 billion in community violence intervention. He's changed 5 different programs and over 25 different areas of where he can invest in community-based public safety, where people on the front line can be the ones who navigate peace in each community by either interrupting it, helping people heal, giving out jobs, and working on the front line where it's the most prime area for violence to take place. So although he discussed police, he's also investing very heavily in violence prevention.
Right. And Erica, we did hear from Eric Adams there with some powerful words saying that treating the symptom is not the same as treating what actually causes the gun violence in the first place. He also mentioned that possibly implementing a gang and guns task force could be useful. As someone who does have boots on the ground every day, do you think that is the appropriate remedy for these gang increased shootings?
I think in New York City, we've proven lock, stock, and barrel that the New York City crisis management system, funded correctly, working cohesively with all of the elements that interconnect in our community around public safety, that we can once again make New York the safest big city in America. We brought violence down in 2017, where it was no shootings on a whole weekend, where it was 5 days, I think, with absolutely nobody being shot. And we did it in 2017. We can do it again if invested right, if looked at in the same capacity as EMS and fire department and so on and so forth. The New York City crisis management has proved in our areas, because as gun violence rises around the city, in a lot of our catchment areas, violence is not rising. We have the answer.
Well, just as your shirt says, fund peace, Governor Cuomo is funneling nearly $140 billion to community programs like yours to bring an end to the gun violence. So how is Life Camp going to use that money to prevent gun violence? What are you going to do with it?
So one, I don't think Life Camp is getting funding from the governors. I think it's not quite that much. But if Life Camp was to receive funds, we would get more peace mobiles on the streets so that we can show up and promote peace and help people heal from violence, hiring more outreach workers and violence interrupters so that we can go to the hot spots and work with those identified individuals and give them the tools that they need to turn their lives around. At the same time, working with the full community on helping to change the narrative of violence, change the community norm so that we can have peace a lifestyle, you know, and that trauma is in the beginning, the middle, and the end of violence. And so as we help people heal, and as Eric Adams said, invest in the root cause, poverty. When you looked at coronavirus and you looked at the number of people impacted, it was the preconditions. The preconditions to violence is poverty, is no job, is lack of quality health care, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so when we take care of those situations, we can see violence reducing in all over New York City and around the nation.
So that's getting to the root cause and not the symptoms that Eric Adams was talking about.
Correct.
Absolutely. And obviously,
very
Erica,
important.
You guys are working in the ever important community outreach aspect of this. So tell us a little bit more about the Fund Peace Coalition and how we can all really get involved here.
So people could text Fund Peace to 51555 and join the campaign. But what Fund Peace is when the funds get ready to come to the ground, we want to make sure people's infrastructures are built. We want to make sure that in every city that the people who are doing this work have the tools that they need, that they're working together, that they're prepared to interrupt and mediate incidents so that we can reduce the number of violence. Fund Peace has advocated for the $5 billion. Fund Peace has led the fight around the nation to help bring ARP funds down to groups on the ground. So what you're talking about with Governor Cuomo and other governors and mayors. And Fund Peace will continue to work alongside of those on the front line. And we are those on the front line to make sure that the models that we have, and it's not one model that works, it's all the models comprehensively put together to give the communities what they need at the time in which they need it, just like any other emergency response system. It's intervention, it's prevention, it's mitigation, it's preparedness, and it's recovery. And so we fit in all of those buckets, and we help our people move from a space of trauma to a place of healing, a place of power.
All right, Erica Ford, thank you so much for being a tireless advocate for people that are struggling and helping keep the streets of New York safe. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.